getting ready to overseed my lawn. It's the fall overseeding. I overseed it in the springtime, which I normally do every year, and I overseed in the fall. My lawn has been coming along quite well this year. I have had some grub damage and some crabgrass, some weeds came up throughout the course of the year, but I've taken care of them as they've come along. So now it's just a matter of seeding for the fall, getting some new growth that has time to establish itself before the frost kicks in. So, a little checklist. I have my rakes. I have my rakes off to one side. A shovel. Use a tamper. I tamper those seeds into place after I put them down. I have some earth, garden soil. I have grass seed. It's a perennial ryegrass mix. Starter fertilizer there. It's a 1025. A liquid aerator as opposed to core aeration. I core aerated already this year, and I'll liquid aerate now. And down below here, I have my peat moss. In the back, my lawnmower, of course. Got to cut that grass down quite short. I'll be cutting it to about approximately 1 inch. I'm going to use my spreader, my Scott's Elite back there. Probably have to use my wheelbarrow to bring things around. But that's my checklist. That's all I really need to complete this job. So let's go. I'm going to cut this down to 1 inch, but I'm not going to cut it all at 1 inch at one time because I'm going to mulch. So I'm going to cut down to 2 inches, and then I'm going to cut down a second time to 1 inch. Let's go. Now that this is double cut, you can see that there's actually some clumps of grass around. You can see that there. It's not a big issue really. I'm just going to come back with my leaf blower and I'm going to blow those little mounds of grass around, and they will break down into the soil like regular mulched grass would, and actually provide a little bit of extra moisture around my seeds once I drop them. So now it's time to go repair some spots that I have some grub damage in. So now that I've raked through my bad spots on the lawn, there's a very simple way to clean this up. It's probably easier than you'd think. I'm just gonna go grab my mower, I'm gonna throw a bag on the back, bag it, and get rid of it. If you watch my previous video on fixing your lawn in 14 days, you may recognize this section of my lawn. This is a section that I had neglected for multiple years. So for this project, I'm putting down a perennial ryegrass blend. It is the second season that I've been using the perennial ryegrass. You'll hear a lot of folks say that perennial ryegrass doesn't winter well or doesn't do well within drought. My experience has been slightly different, and I'm going to go put it down again. I'll fix the small areas that I've put down earth by hand. That means I'll drop down the seed by hand, and then I'm actually going to come back and overseed those spots. I'm now going to lightly rake over the areas that I had added earth and that I seeded in. I want to make sure that I have good soil contact, but I also want to make sure that the seeds are distributed evenly. I use two different rakes when I'm raking through seed. I'll go through lightly with the back side of my garden rake and then go over top of that, walking, just touching the blades of the rake. If you watch my previous video on fixing a lawn in 14 days, you see that I normally tamper my seeds into place. I just very, very, very lightly cap them with a tamper to make sure that they have really good soil contact. This little extra step will make sure that when I have rain and wind and such, I'm not going to have those seeds blowing away. If this was a larger space, I would consider renting a roller. It's important to mention that I'm actually not pushing it down all that hard. You don't want to compact the soil that you're about to grow seeds in. It needs to be loose for the first few inches down, maybe 2 inches, 3 inches of soil for it to grow into. So I'm not packing it down very hard. I'm just lightly touching it, just enough to push those seeds into the earth. So it's time for fertilizer. This particular product asks for 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So on my Scott's Elite, that is a setting of 3 3/4. So now I'm going to top my freshly seeded areas with peat moss. If you have not used peat moss before, let me caution you. This little 3.8 cubic feet of peat probably weighs about 100 pounds or so. It's extraordinarily heavy. It's very compacted. Also, it is probably one of the most messiest materials that you're going to use. It will get everywhere. So just a little bit of word to the wise. Be ready to take a shower right afterwards. It's also important to remember or to know that a little goes a long way. You only need to put maybe a 1/4 inch of peat moss on top of your seeds to help them retain moisture and hide them from birds flying above head. So a step that's not required, but I do anyways, is put a thin layer of peat over top of my entire lawn. And that's a wrap. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for access to other videos like this one. I'm Jeff Seaton. Thank you for watching.